Hello everyone, today I'm bringing to you a topic that is ever present when you are a fan of any Fate content, or, more frighteningly, someone who studies history. Fate as a franchise enraptures many people for both its storytelling and how it can introduce you to new figures in history from cultures vastly different from your own. However, as Fate has grown, it has even begun to overshadow these figures in history, which is amazing in its own right, but problematic for students of history as well as those who teach it. So today we're going to explore this phenomenon dubbed the Astolfo effect. Let me start with a proper explanation. The Astolfo effect is when a historical character gets overshadowed by its modern rendition or interpretation. The best example of this is Astolfo from The Matter of France, who historically was a beautiful man that defeated a giant, flew a chariot to the moon to retrieve his friend's senses, and bedded 1,000 women with his dwarf friend to determine if only women also cheated on men. However, retrieving that information was like pulling teeth out of a coconut. That is because Astolfo's rendition from Fate has completely overtaken any potential research sources that existed. For example, if I look up Astolfo Matter of France on Google, my own video pops up, and it has less than 10,000 views. That is how difficult it is to find information on him. The once proud paladin now exists as a pink-haired ditz that makes people question their sexuality. But what about other characters in Fate? I have created a metric to determine how affected a character is by the Astolfo effect, known as the Clank metric. It comes from 3 factors. How deep do you have to go to find any actual historical sources? How corrupted is their image search? And finally, how quick is it to find lewd art or fetish art of them just by using their name alone? While 2 or 3 may seem to be the same, trust me, they are not. So, with that in mind, I will be grading a handful of servants, some popular, some not so much, and seeing how deeply they fall into the Astolfo effect. I will be using an account that has never been influenced by Fate to avoid the Google algorithm from influencing this as best that I can. So I will be grading each of these characters on 3 categories. Safe, as in they have not been influenced by the Astolfo effect and can still be safely researched. Questionable, if they are still very much influenced by the Astolfo effect, but not enough that it completely impacts research. This is going to primarily be if their Google image searches are just really jacked. And finally, failed. If they fail the Astolfo effect, it means that they have completely overtaken their historical counterpart and are now basically the big one. So Artoria is one that is serving as the solid middle ground. If you look up King Arthur, you are still going to find the Arthurian legends in all 3 categories. The name King Arthur is still famous enough outside of Fate to avoid the Astolfo effect's influence. Now, if I were to look up Artoria, it's all Fate. It's nothing but Fate. That's because Artoria is Japanese and basically Fate exclusive, so it's treated more like actually looking up a Fate character, so I'm going to disallow it. Thus, Artoria is safe. Nagao Kagetora is a weird one. So, when you research them as Nagao Kagetora, they fail all aspects of the Clank metric. On Google's first page, the only historical reference to them is through Wikipedia, which is going to be a common thread for a lot of these. Their images are entirely of a girl that never stops smiling and has scary eyes, and it didn't take long to find some armpit fetish art of her. So with that, she has failed. However, Kagetora is better known by the name Uesuge Kenshin, and when you research them as such, she passes the test in all categories. So with that in mind, I will give her the grade of questionable. If you know both names, researching him is easy, but if you are only aware of Kagetora, you may run into some issues. Oda Nobunaga, much like Artoria, has been influenced by Fate to some degree, but is such a widely known figure in history that the corruption of Fate has not taken full-on hold. If you do go to the images, they do include a mix of Fate and other portrayals in anime and games because he's very much prevalent throughout a lot of Japanese created media. But you also get a nice mix of historical portraits in there as well. So far I've not found anything R18, so Nobu passes with a safe. Qinliang Yu is kind of difficult to assess. That is because her Google page has primarily Fate, but it does have a nice sprinkling of actual research stuff, including the location of where her grave is. Her images start off mostly with Fate's Qinliang Yu, but as it goes on, it becomes more historical. However, within the first few rows exists an image, albeit blurred, of her wearing Miyu's magical girl outfit, which I am going to throw into the fetish category because you know what you did. So, with a heavy heart, I will be saying that Qinliang Yu has failed and fallen victim to the Astolfo effect. Nido Chris, one of my favorite Fate servants, has a completely split search page. I will say that the research aspect is easy because of this, so she passes the first aspect of the clank metric. However, once you move over to images, it's nothing but Fate's Nitocris. Most of it, however, is in good taste as well, so she only really fails the image aspect, thus I will be giving her a grade of questionable. Suzuka Gozen is perhaps the first true royal flush. She exists almost entirely as a Fate character, with only her Wikipedia appearing as a non-Fate source on Google. Her images are all of a JK Fox girl with a smug look on her face, or statues that you can buy. She even fails the fetish test with feet pics being on full display and an image of her pulling her bra off, so sorry Suzuka, you have failed the Astolfo effect. Shitonai is just like Suzuka. There is only one non-Fate related article on the first page, with the bottom result being an option to buy her Halloween CE outfit. The images are all of Fate Shitonai, usually from the game, until you get to this one. In classic DeviantArt fashion, we have Shitonai completely jacked and roided out, so sorry girl, you failed this one as well. Okay, so now we're going to be working with a classic example of the Astolfo effect, or at least one that gets memed all hell and back. Nero. If you just look up Nero, it's all the actual emperor. So, if you teach history and need to find him, just type in Nero, because that's the only one that passes the test. It is once you search for Nero Claudius that it gets a bit more dicey. The websites stay the same and are still researchable, but the images are primarily of a certain red saber. If you scroll deep enough, you will come across some more risque art, but nothing too terribly tasteless. So, surprisingly, I will be giving Nero a pass, and giving Nero Claudius a questionable. It's not as rough as the memes may lead you to believe, that is just your Google algorithm telling you to stop looking up hentai without incognito mode. Mandricardo, another member of the Matter of France stories, has met a similar fate to Astolfo. His Wikipedia is the only historical page that he has, and his images are all of his Hachiman phase, and there's even some very clearly drawn for the hotness factor of my friendo. There is a lot of Mandricardo x Gudico. Like, a lot of it. So unfortunately, Mandricardo is going to have to be failing the Astolfo effect. Erish Kegels is interesting in the same way that Nitocris is, in that you can research her from the Google pages fairly easily, but it's the moment that you flip over to images that it's all of the best Rin face. I will say, when I looked her up, it did give me the prompt of, did you mean Erish Kegel FGO? The images do include some artist representations of what the actual goddess would look like, and I had to go pretty far to find anything fetish related, and it was in the form of Orange Maru's maid outfit for her that someone was selling. So, I will grade her in the same way as I did Nitocris and give her a questionable. Maeve is bizarre. On Google, she actually appears mostly as questionable. Easy to research with almost no mention of Fate until you get to the images, and then it's some of her from Fate and then the rest from Myth, and it was then that I realized that I had left Safe Search on, and once I turned it off, it's very lewd. By that, I mean there's just straight up porn by the fifth row, so I will be failing Maeve in the Astolfo effect, albeit very close to questionable. Finally, we have the big man Astolfo himself. Now, you and I both already know how he's going to get graded. The whole thing is named after him. So, I will be mostly just doing this for the sake of it. He is, of course, completely overtaken by Fate. So, I'm just going to be doing a little bit of fun and just do the game where I'm going to scroll down to see how long it takes for me to find something that I have to blur. Let's go. That was fast. So that was the Astolfo effect. So, if you were ever curious as to what it's like trying to find images of historical figures, this is exactly what historians are having to wade through. So, draw more of this stuff to make our lives harder. Alright, I'm out. Like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, tell me if you want me to look into any other servants to see just how corrupted they are. Keep your chin up. Peace.